Welcome back to Inspiring Builds. I'm Dan, and today I'm going to show you how to build a tabletop ring toss game that has gone viral on social media. Many of you have seen a tiki ring toss game with a ring on a string hanging from the ceiling and a hook on the wall, and this is a tabletop version of that where two players can play. This game is tons of fun, extremely affordable, and easy to build with limited tools. If you're new here, please make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on those bell notifications so you don't miss any of these tutorials.
Good job, I turned it around on you.
You did.
Let's go.
Let's get building. I used scrap lumber I had on hand and purchased a 1-inch oak round dowel along with this basic hardware. Before starting, ensure to wear proper PPE. I wear safety glasses and ear protection when operating a miter saw. I always trim the ends to ensure the lumber is square and I have a clean cut. Reference the cut list with the measurements provided for each board. Use a speed square, and I believe in cutting once and measuring twice. Don't forget not to cut directly on the line as your boards will come up short. You want the blade to be beside the cut line. In this instance, the blade will be to the right of the cut line. As mentioned, I used scrap lumber I had on hand, and there are several options to use. My thought for the base was to use two 1x6 boards glued together, or one 2x6. I decided on the 2x6 since I had a scrap piece on hand that was nice and flat. The first board we just cut was a 2x6 cut at 12 inches long for the base. Here I'm cutting a 2x2 at 15.5 inches long for the top. For scoring, I used a 1x2 cut at 9.25 inches. Lastly, the 1-inch oak round dowel I purchased, I cut to 12.5 inches long for the center support and another cut at 2.5 inches long for the game piece. I adjusted the miter saw to 45 degrees to make the final cuts on the top 2x2 and the base 2x6. I used the speed square to mark my lines for the 45-degree angle cuts as shown, marking each side of the boards being used for the top and base. This isn't a requirement, however I like the finished look it gave, as well as my thought for the base was that it would give plenty of clearance for the ring to travel. The scrap 2x2 used was from an old bed frame used for the slat supports, and it had a few small holes. The 2x6 was nice and flat, however it had a couple of rough spots as well. I used all-purpose wood filler that goes on pink and dries with the natural wood finish when it's ready to sand. I used 220 grit sandpaper to sand all sides of the boards nice and smooth. Use a 1 3/8 inch Forstner bit on the 1x2 board that was cut at 9.25 inches for scoring. Make a mark every 1 9/16 of an inch and there will be a total of 5. Measure and mark the center of the board. A combination square will make it quick and consistent. With this size Forstner bit, a drill press isn't required and can be done with using a drill. I drilled down 1/4 inch deep using a 1 3/8 inch Forstner bit. While we have the Forstner bits out, we're going to drill the top and base for the round dowel. Mark the center of the 2x6 base and the 2x2 top with the boards laid out as shown. Select a 1-inch Forstner bit with the oak round dowel being 1 inch. Drill the top a 1/2 inch down and the base 3/4 of an inch down. With the 15.5 inch length facing up on the top piece, mark 1 inch in on each side. Center the mark on each side, and this will be the drill marks to install our screw eyes later. Measure and mark a center line on the bottom of the 2x6 base and top of the 2x2. Pre-drill using a 5/32 inch bit for the screws we will use to install the round dowel. Prior to installing the round dowel, use wood glue in the holes of the base and top. Use some muscle to insert the round dowel as it's a nice snug fit. Use a level to ensure the wooden dowel is plumb. We're good here and ready to put on the top. Once the top is pushed onto the dowel, recheck to ensure the dowel is still plumb and the top is level. I use two number 9 2-inch multi-purpose screws in addition to the wood glue for a strong bond. Check for level one last time on the top prior to driving the screw all the way in. Do the same process on the bottom and check to ensure you're plumb. I use these screws as they're easy to start, dry fast, have a precision fit, doesn't strip, and easy to countersink as shown without a countersink bit. To complete the build, I use twisted mason line, 2 general purpose 1.5-inch rings, 2 number 8 screw or cup hooks, and 2 number 212 screw eyes. These can all be found in the change section at your local big box store. I will also provide a link to a kit you can purchase on Amazon to make it easy. Use a 3/32 drill bit for the small screw eyes. I use painter's tape as a flag to ensure I drilled the right depth. Hand tighten the screw eyes as shown. Mark 3.5 inches up from the base on each side and center the line. Drill using the same flag technique with an 11/64 drill bit. Hand tighten the screw hooks as shown. Use the same wood filler as earlier to fill and sand the top to hide the top screw. I didn't worry about the base since it would be hidden. For me, the most challenging part was tying the line and getting the right amount of slack. On the first one, I started with a double knot on the ring, ensured I had a bit of slack, and then finished tying a double knot on the eye hook. I found the best technique for me for tying and get the slack correct was to turn it over and tie a double knot on the eye hook first, and then turn it back over and position the ring as shown with the close-up shot and tie a double knot around the ring. Fuse the end of each line using a flame so it melts and keeps it from fraying. When finished, do a few test runs to ensure you can hook the ring and it's consistent on both sides. This step is optional as I wanted to use magnets to keep the 1x2 for scoring, or shot ladder if you're building it for a drinking game, next to the base. Clamp the 1x2, center it, and mark lines 2.5 inches in on the base and 1x2. I used strong rare earth magnets from Harbor Freight. Center the lines and use a 3/8 Forstner bit to countersink the hole so the magnets are flush. I use super glue to adhere the magnets. Epoxy is another option. I use felt pads that are optional and was happy with the magnet design. For such small magnets, they are super strong as shown, and the felt pads helps protect the furniture. Here is a natural wood finish, but I decided to stain it and go with the darker Jacobine stain and semi-gloss polyurethane. I used a 2-inch angled stain brush, but if I were to do it again, I would apply all the stain by a foam applicator as I typically do for smaller jobs, as I find it to be a bit of a cleaner process and just dispose of the foam pad when done. I taped off the hardware before starting the staining process. I applied 2 coats of stain and 1 coat of polyurethane, sanding between coats with 220 grit. I decided to keep the game piece a natural wood color and sanded it down, giving it a slight round over on the ends. You ready? This game is known for a drinking game with using the scoring as a shot ladder. However, we just started using it as a family game and already having a blast. I really appreciate you watching. If you like this video, I have another one queued up for you in the corner that you'd probably like as well. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Like, comment, share, and hit that notification bell so you can get notified when I release new videos. Oh, you got me.
Yeah!
Good
I
job,
turned